record levels of national debt, a massive Polish budget deficit, declining exports, and falling investments. Yet there's growth in inflation and utility prices. Instead of a plan to fix the economy, there are new militarization plans that will drive the country further into debt. Elections in Poland are approaching, and the carousel of campaign promises is in full swing. However, under the guise of a so-called threat, Warsaw is spending colossal amounts on rearmament. Will the political course remain the same with fewer solutions to civil issues and more spending on a mythical war, or will there simply be a change of officials? This is Ekaterina Tikomarova with you. Hello. For many years, Poland's power system has been built on a tandem of two parties, the Civic Platform Liberals and the Law and Justice Conservatives. They alternated in power, feeding off the government. The next elections will be in May, with 21 candidates running. But today, the main forces are predictably revolving around these two parties. Both parties are fielding their candidates. This is the Civic Platform. The Civic Platform in the current government. Tusk is already seated from it, and Law and Justice, currently represented by Duda. The Civic Platform has nominated Rafał Trzaskowski. He is the vice chairman of the party. If he wins the election, both the president and the prime minister of Poland will represent the same political force. This will allow for a liberal policy with less regard for the conservative opposition. By the way, in the 2020 elections, Trzaskowski posed serious competition to Duda. He was literally on his heels, but lost by only 2 percentage points. Until 2023, Trzaskowski advocated for an open-door policy for migrants, but suddenly changed his approach to this topic. Karol Nawrocki, this candidate, does not belong to any political force, but is nominated and supported by the conservative Law and Justice Party. What else should be added to the candidate's resume? A fan of demolishing monuments to Soviet soldiers. Only 2 candidates will make it to the tour. Their ratings will be formed from the layout, who will get the support numbers of the third-place finisher. Currently, it's Sławomir Mencen from the Confederation Party.
In principle, this has been going on for 20 years, since 2005, when Law and Justice first started ruling Poland. And for 20 years, Poland has been alternately ruled by Law and Justice and the Civic Platform. Of course, nothing new can be expected now. However, Mencen, a representative of the Confederation, is gaining significant traction towards the finish line. He has a real chance to participate in the second round, because what will happen in the second round is quite obvious. He is receiving many votes. Because he holds back his support for the conflict in Ukraine and Ukraine itself. Because more and more people are tired of this conflict and participating in it.
A few years ago, the Confederation bloc was considered a marginal political force. However, disappointment in Tusk's government and the reluctance to repeat past mistakes with PS pushed Polish voters to seek alternative paths. And it's quite possible that the Confederation could be that alternative. Considering that even at the presidential campaign level, inter-party struggle occurs in Poland. Law and Justice has significantly tarnished its reputation. Today, PiS is associated with economic failures, a confrontational course, including with EU partners, a visa scandal, and numerous corruption cases. On the Civic Platform, or rather Trzaskowski, Tusk's failures leave a mark, so the Confederation has a chance, especially with the younger generation. Mencen is gaining popularity, especially among men under 40, and he advocates for limiting the EU's powers, promises to introduce freedom of speech like in the USA, legalize marijuana, and simplify access to weapons. So according to polls, the balance of power looks as follows. Civic Platform, Rafał Trzaskowski, 34.1%, Karol Nawrocki, Law and Justice, 25.7%. Sławomir Mencen, Confederation, his rating closes the top 3 but has a steady growth trend of 16.2%. Each works for their audience, emphasizing the most sensitive issues. Trzaskowski focuses on the topic of abortion, with his electorate mainly being urban residents. Nawrocki bets on residents of small towns and villages, focusing on regional issues, particularly leveling social standards. Mencen finds support among the youth, who are not fond of either law and justice or the civic platform. Mencen's main argument is reducing the state's role in the economy and public life, while proposing to expand business powers. This is the internal agenda. However, a few months ago, the key campaign theme was supposed to be the regional situation. The winner was to be the one who convinced voters that they could best protect the Polish people from aggression, namely the so-called inevitable attack by Belarus and Russia. Why we would attack Poland, of course, no one explains. However, the Trump factor reshaped the campaign map, and the coming from the East theme faded into the background. Both candidates agree on this part. They advocate for increased defense spending. In essence, it's not about military issues, but rather leadership in the EU, where Poland aims to gain leadership positions, competing with Paris and Berlin, especially now when Donald Trump shows disdain for the existing form of the EU. It's worth noting that the EU, although primarily an economic bloc, is perceived by Trump as contributors to the military alliance, mostly underperformers. Poland stands out as a leader in defense spending growth. From 2023, Poland is legally required to allocate at least 3% of GDP to defense, but in the last 5 years, it has grown 2.7 times, reaching 4% of GDP, or $34.6 billion. This year, plans include increasing the number of professional military personnel to 150,000 and territorial defense forces to 44,000 soldiers. Last year, Poland ranked first globally in arms imports, exceeding $7 billion. For the third consecutive year, it holds the top spot in contract volumes at $15.6 billion. In the next 4 years, arms and equipment imports are forecasted to reach $51.4 billion. In other words, an exemplary student among laggards. For the U.S., this is primarily an opportunity to support American arms sales. In this regard, Poland is one of the most active buyers.
Poland, like all of Europe today, is engaged in paper games, of course. Firstly, over the past decades, we have completely disarmed. The conflict in Ukraine accelerated this. We are only now signing contracts, according to which weapons should be ready for use in a few years. The problem is that in recent years, we have also ruined our economy, destroyed our metallurgy, and our energy sector, which was based on coal. Today, Poland is not even capable of fulfilling large military contracts because military equipment is built on the basis of good metallurgical plants, which we need. Energy resources of a certain level are needed to quickly produce such equipment. Poland doesn't have this, and Europe has little of it today. While there are contracts and loud slogans, there is no real power in Poland or Europe today.
However, if you look at the content of leading Polish publications, it seems that Poland is actively preparing for armed conflict. The threats are non-existent, yet the defense budget is inflated by the pre-election background. Both main candidates also support the line led by the main parties. In this area, changes are unlikely. Belarus is viewed as a threat and a pretext to further expand the budget. In conclusion, a shift in Polish politics is unlikely. This is extremely disadvantageous for the system's existence. It's unlikely anyone will fulfill their campaign promises. There are many examples of this, the latest being Tusk. If he had fulfilled even 10%, Poles could at least have a break from Ukrainians and their conflict. Poles would have a chance for the government to address their issues, and we would see a reduction in tensions in bilateral international relations. This was Ekaterina Tekomirova with you. Until next time!